You've seen it happen. Someone clearly hurts another person, and instead of apologizing, they just don't. They act like nothing happened. So why do some people simply never say sorry?
Why do some people never apologize?
Champ, listen. Apologizing feels like a confession. Like you saying, I'm the bad one. And nobody wants that label. Nobody. So what do? They push back. They change the subject. They say you're overreacting. Because the alternative is what? Admitting fault in front of everyone? That's humiliation. That's weakness. And weak doesn't win. See, for some people, being right isn't just about the argument. It's about who they are. Their whole identity is built on being the one who doesn't crack, doesn't fold, doesn't lose. So an apology isn't just words, it's a demotion. It says, I was wrong, you were right, and now everyone knows it. They'd rather blow the whole thing up than say sorry, rather walk away, rather double down, because staying close, that requires being vulnerable. That's a word they don't know.
Why do some people never apologize?
Okay, so, here's the thing that nobody really talks about. Saying sorry can feel genuinely dangerous. Like, not just uncomfortable, actually dangerous. Because what happens after? What if they get angrier? What if they take it as an opening and just pile on? What if saying sorry means you have to keep apologizing forever and it never actually stops? And I think for some people, especially if they grew up where making a mistake meant getting yelled at or shut out or made to feel really, really bad about themselves, saying sorry got wired in as this doorway to something awful. So when the moment comes, they don't go quiet because they don't care. They freeze, or they get defensive, or they kind of attack first, weirdly. It's not cruelty, it's just their whole system is screaming that accountability leads somewhere bad, and they can't always override that, even when they want to.
The issue, as I see it, is that an apology does not stay contained. You offer one, and then there are follow-up questions, renegotiations, requests to revisit events you considered resolved. The other person may introduce their version of what happened, and that version may conflict significantly with your own. If you accept their account, you are no longer in control of the narrative. They decide what occurred. They decide what it meant. And that is a considerable amount of authority to hand over in a single conversation. So some people do not apologize because they do not want to open that process. They want the situation to remain defined, predictable, finite. Staying unapologetic is not always avoidance. Sometimes it is a deliberate way of keeping the terms of the conversation stable. They decide when it is over. They decide what it means. That is not nothing.
Why do some people never apologize?
Oh, sweetheart, so much of this comes from the world someone grew up in. What did they see at home when things went wrong? Did the adults in their life sit down and sort it out, say they're sorry, and move forward together? Or did everyone just go quiet until it blew over? Because if repair was never something you witnessed, it's very hard to do it naturally as an adult. And then there's the group around them now. In some communities, in some friendships, saying sorry is just what decent people do. But in others, it's seen as losing, as being soft, as letting the side down. So they hold back, not always because they don't feel it, but because the people they belong to have taught them that admitting fault makes you look small. And staying connected to their group can feel more urgent than making things right with one person. That's a really painful place to be, dear.
Well, yes. There are actually two quite distinct patterns here, and I think it is worth separating them carefully. The first is interpretive disagreement. The person genuinely believes the case has not been established. They may say something like, that is not what I intended, or you have misread the situation entirely, or technically I was correct. And to their mind, apologizing for something they do not believe they did would be, fundamentally dishonest. The second pattern is more, strategic. They calculate that apologizing may be used against them later. It might invite further demands. It might concede authority over events they are not willing to concede. Or it might validate a response from the other person that they consider disproportionate, so they choose explanation or debate or simply silence. Put simply, for some people, not apologizing just feels like the safer and more logical option.
Why do some people never apologize?
My child, when someone cannot bring themselves to say sorry, it is rarely one simple thing driving them. It is many roots tangled together beneath the surface. For some, an apology feels like stepping directly into shame, like agreeing to be the worst version of themselves. For others, it feels like handing over something they cannot get back. And for those who were never shown what repair looks like, the words simply were not planted in them. They grew up in soil where conflict ended in silence or in war, never in something gentle and honest. What changes things is not pressure, it is safety. When a person begins to understand that owning harm does not erase who they are, that an apology is not a verdict but a bridge, something quietly shifts. The need to be right and the need to stay close are not always opposites, but some people spend a whole lifetime believing they are.
If you made it this far, you're gonna want to see what comes next. Hit subscribe so you don't miss our next video, and click the video on screen now to keep learning more. See you in the next video.